BOUDREAUX. Our guest today is Tim Jones. Tim is an antique tractor and engine collector, and we're going to find out about tractors and kind of the role they've played in our history and a little bit more about them. So, Tim, thank you so much for coming.
Such a pleasure, Linda, to be here with you.
Oh, it's delightful. And you have brought lots of model tractors, or a bunch of model tractors, with you, but let me just say at the onset, for each of these models, you have the real thing at home, right?
Everything but the tractor on the very end. That's the only one that I don't have. But yes, for all the rest of the tractors, I do have the full size actual running tractors or engines.
And this isn't all you have either.
No.
How many tractors do you have, Tim?
Well, I had to think about this here when I do a count. But tractors, we counted up. We have 32 tractors in our collection, and also 13 of the small hit-and-miss engines that we have in our collection.
How long have you been doing this?
This all started probably in 1992. I saw one of these little small engines at a festival, talked to the people about what this engine was, what it did, and learned about it, and I really got interested, so that kind of fired the collection a bit and got me interested in it. So I started with these small engines, and this went for a few years.
So let's take a good look at this engine here, because this is kind of fun. This, oops, I'm knocking the belt off.
It's
But
okay.
so this was your first one, right? This is what got you hooked?
Yes. This little John Deere engine was the first engine that I collected, and
What does it do? What's it for?
this particular engine, this style engine was made back in the early 1900s up until about the 1950s, and the function of these engines were to supply power to the rural farms and places that did not have electricity. So at that time, the people that had the means to purchase one of these engines could use this to power any piece of equipment they had on the farm, like pull a water well, saw wood for their lumber or firewood for their homes. As we have here, this is a corn sheller. They could power a corn sheller. They could power a grits mill to grind the shell corn into feed or either into cornmeal.
But this is a corn sheller? Whoops,
Yes.
I keep knocking it off. But this is what it would do then, huh?
Yes.
The wheel would turn
Yeah,
and...
the corn would go in here. It would shell it. The finished product would come out and it would empty into a bin.
Now you have one of these really too, and so
Yes.
and you showed us to some kids. I want to talk about that in a minute, but I want to go back real quickly to the other engine back here, because it has a place on the top for water, right? It was powered by water.
Well, it's powered by
By
gasoline.
steam? Oh, gasoline.
It's a gasoline engine, but the top part of the engine, this is called a water hopper here, and it's filled with water. There's no circulation, so it actually steams up, and as it heats, it makes steam. It vapors off, and you just add water to the tank as it needs.
Well, why do you need to have water if it's powered by gasoline?
Well, the water actually cools the
Okay,
cylinder, same
okay.
as water cools your car.
Okay. But
So
some old folks used to cook that way, huh?
Yes, yeah. I think we were talking earlier that
Yeah.
at one of the festivals that we were at, there was an older gentleman, probably in his mid-80s, came up and talked to me, and he said, well, when I was a young man, he said, we had one of these engines on the farm, and he said early in the morning, he said we would gather up a piece of cheesecloth material, we would put potatoes, eggs, and in the bag, tie it up, we'd drop it into the water hopper, crank the engine, and let it pump water that morning, and by mid-morning, we would have boiled potatoes and boiled eggs for a snack. And, so
Using everything, huh?
that's what I thought. They were utilizing everything they had back in those days.
And not a bad way to do it. So, but you've taken one of these, the real thing. You've got the real
Yes, ma'am. I have
equipment.
one identical to this
Okay,
one.
so how big is the real one?
I have two. There's actually three sizes that all look identical. It starts at a 1.5 horsepower, a 3 horsepower, and a 6 horsepower.
Okay.
So I have the 1.5 and the 3 horsepower engines that I have in my collection.
And you showed children, you showed some kids at one of the schools in Crowley how this works,
Yes,
huh?
we've done this quite some number of years ago. We did the Food for America's show for the kids. We actually brought tractor display, and we brought engine display, and we had the hand shelling corn, so each child got to shell a ear corn. They watched it come off the ear. They collected the shell corn. They were actually able to put it into milling machine that I had belted up to the same little engine, and we ground the corn and made like feed out of it and also cornmeal. So they
See?
got to see it come from off the cob and go all the way into a finished product in just a few minutes' time.
Wow, and like I was saying before we started today, this is becoming a hot topic again as we start wanting to look again at urban farming and how we can bring the whole process of growing and preparing food, back so children can know where it really comes from. It doesn't come from the market and wrapped in cellophane. It really comes from Mother
Exactly.
Earth in here.
Yes, ma'am.
So is this the oldest engine, or I'm going to pull this red engine
I'll
up
move
here. I'm
this
going to
one out of the
move
way
this
here.
one. Okay, and this is another engine.
Yes, this engine is actually the oldest of the engines I have. I have 13 hit and miss engines, as they call these. And
Hit and miss?
Hit and miss, yes.
Appropriately named.
It is. It fires one time. The weights of these big centrifugal wheels keep the engine in motion, so it doesn't fire like a normal lawnmower engine or gas engine that we have these days. So it only fires when it slows down enough, and the governor tells it needs to fire again.
Okay.
So that's why they call it hit and miss. So it'll fire one time. This particular engine I have, I think it can turn probably somewhere close to 17 to 20 revolutions before it ever fires a second time.
Ooh.
So they're very, very fuel efficient, operating off the centrifugal force like this. But this is the oldest engine that I have. This engine was made from 1905 to 1915. The engine that I have in my collection is a 1911 model.
And they all work the same.
Yes. Yeah, the engine is 101 years old.
And it still works.
Still works beautifully. It can run all day long and never have a minute's trouble with it.
So Tim, when you start doing this, like when you get an engine, I'm assuming it didn't work when you got it, or did it?
Well, some engines were basket cases and some engines were in running condition when I bought it. This particular engine was in running condition when I did purchase it, so I didn't have to do that much with this particular engine. But there are some that we've had to rebuild from ground up. The little John Deere engine, we looked at it first. I had to do a total restoration and total rebuild.
So can you get parts easily? I mean, do they still make them?
Some parts, some gaskets are still available. I was able to get some things from John Deere, but like the actual piston for the engine, there was a company in California that I had to get to actually make the part, make the piston and remake it for.
So this is sometimes a commitment.
It is. Sometimes you really have to back up and look at it. Do I really want to invest this much money? But
Right, and making a piston. And
it does get a little bit costly, but in the end, it's worth it.
And it's worth it for lots of reasons. But,
Yes, ma'am.
but why is it worth it to you?
We love to collect these things, but also my main passion is to help preserve and to keep our culture of the past alive. By keeping these antique pieces of equipment around, it gives our younger generation, and even the generation of today, at the shows, a lot of people have never seen this, and it helps to bring them back and make them aware of how things were done in the older days and how far we've come since that time.
And really, although it's 100 years, that goes by pretty fast.
Yes.
It's not like impossibly far back that we've come so far. So what is your oldest? We're going to move from engines now to tractors. Now, and you were saying again earlier that some of the tractors you have are like right after we stopped using horses to pull that plow, huh? So
My tractors generally start from the mid-30s. I think the oldest tractor I have is a 1935 F12 Farmall. There were tractors made available probably, I would say probably from the late teens up until that point, but
more experimental,
more
kind of easing into
experimental.
it.
These are probably like the second generation type
Okay.
tractors that
Okay.
I have. But these tractors, some of these tractors were actually the first changeovers. Some of the farmers actually did. They didn't go for the first generation
Right.
tractors.
Okay.
They waited.
Okay.
And some of these tractors we have, there's actually been some of the old timers tell us, this is what they graduated from the horse and mule type power that they had on the farm, and they graduated into whatever particular, like the F12 that we have. That was a step up for a lot of guys.
And it made a huge difference in farming, didn't it?
Yes, ma'am. It
Yeah.
did. It was it's antique to us now, but this was very, very modern. It was very radical at the time to go from something that they were used to feeding hay to, and having to keep water for it and keep it sheltered every night, and taking care of it like that, to transitioning to now a machine that does your work.
Yeah.
And it was a big change for a lot of people.
Was there resistance?
I think there was in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Some of the earlier tractor manufacturers actually built what they call a motorized cultivator, and it was very similar to a horse-drawn piece of equipment, the way that the operator would sit in the seat. The thing was actually steered by leather reins where they could pull it like
Just like with the horse.
like you would turn a horse. It was the same setup.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. You got to
So-
ease people into the modern time, whatever
Right.
that may be.
Yeah, these motorized cultivators were also fitted so the farmers didn't have to buy new equipment. It could still use the equipment that they had existing from the animal power. So this was a marketing thought that some of the companies had. Let's give this a try and see if we can't get them started into more modern equipment. in
And
this space.
ease them into the time, so to
Ease them
speak.
into it, yeah.
So, okay, I'm looking at the models, and you try to have a model for every tractor that you have. That's kind of a goal, huh?
That's the goal. I don't have
Okay.
them all yet, but we're working on it.
It comes. So why don't you pick one and tell us about anyone you want to start with?
Okay. This particular tractor,
We're going to move this engine out of the way and bring this little beauty up.
yeah, this is a W Series McCormick tractor.
And what does W series mean?
Stands for Wheatland.
Okay.
So this particular style tractor was built to till the land prior to planting. So it actually worked up the land and got it ready for planting, like in wheat fields, rice fields. And it was used in larger farm operations like that. And then it came into service again after the crop was ready to be harvested. The actual machine has a belt pulley. I'll move it around this side to demonstrate this belt pulley here.
Oh,
It could
yeah.
actually drive like a thrashing machine or a piece
Okay.
of equipment. So once the crop is harvested, it can be thrashed and the grain can be bagged and put in for sale.
So they were able to be multifunctional too. They did different functions
Oh,
while they
yes.
were out there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this your favorite one? Is this your favorite tractor?
It's one of my favorites. I like the Wheatland style tractors.
What do you like about them?
It's just this was the largest tractor of its time for international harvester.
Okay.
The W series, the W9 series. And it was a very big tractor for its time. It was made for large operations. So I just really like that design tractor.
Okay. This is not your first tractor though, is
Oh,
it?
no. This one's not the first tractor we have. One of the first tractors that I collected, well, the very first tractor is the Model D John Deere.
This
It's
one
on-
right here, I'm going to bring it
Yes.
up, and this was your very first one?
That was the very first tractor that I collected, yes.
And what is this one all about?
This is what they call a Model D John Deere. The one I have is 1946, and it's a very unique tractor. It's a very dependable, very rugged tractor. They built this tractor from 1923 all the way up to 1953. So it was a
Well, so
long-running
they liked it,
series.
huh?
It was a 30-year time period that John Deere built that particular style tractor. So it's a very popular tractor in its day.
Now, Tim, when you get these tractors, first of all, how do you find them? I mean, this is a tractor from 1946. Where did you find it?
A friend of mine knew about the tractor, and actually he had played on it when he was a kid, and it was locked up in a barn. And we went by one day. He knew I was looking for a tractor. We decided we'd make a pass by. The old gentleman was still alive. We stopped and visited with him, and he opened up his shed. Sure enough, the old tractor was sitting in there on wooden blocks,
Oh,
and he had parked it there we don't know how long, probably 30 years prior
yeah,
to that.
yeah.
His son-in-law came out, and I asked that gentleman, I said, well, how long has this tractor been in here? Because the older gentleman couldn't remember. But he said, I was dating his daughter, and he said, we've been married over 30 years now. So
It's been in here
it's
a
been in
long,
there
long
while.
time.
But anyway, we got it out, made the deal with him, and had it running in a couple of days' time. So,
So you started tinkering with the engine and got it going, huh?
yes, ma'am.
How about the tires? I mean,
On this particular tractor, I had to replace all the tires.
okay, and
had
they
to
still made
run.
them?
Yes, yeah, they still made the tire. We had to
Okay.
look for it,
Okay.
but they still.
Oh, the internet comes in really handy
Oh, it does.
sometimes, doesn't it? So when you get these, then you pretty much have to haul them home and just start the process of fixing them up. Do you fix them all up?
maybe one day. I'm hoping to get them all there. But for now, out of the collection that we have, like I said, we have like 32 in my private collection.
Mm-hmm.
But we have 23 that are either runners or could be made to run within a short amount of time and maintenance to get them running. So it's a good bit out of our collection that we could call runners.
And we were talking earlier too about, those that you spiff up and repaint and, make look pretty again versus those that still look like they're working in the fields. And there's some pros for both kinds, huh?
Yes, I like the looks of a painted tractor and one that has all the decals, and it's pretty much as it was new, from the showroom floor. But some people really tend to look for the tractors that we call, they're still in their original work clothes.
Okay.
They've not been painted up. They still have all the bumps and bruises and dents from all the years of farming. So,
so that's the character tractor versus the kind of Hollywood tractor.
it has a patina.
Okay, that's a
So-
nice word.
So
That's a nice
we have a
word.
lot of people that really seem to come to shows. We see a lot of people that'll pass by a painted tractor to look at one that hasn't been painted. And
Okay.
they like to see that as well. So I like to have some of both.
So, and you have that in your collection.
yes.
You brought some photographs. I think we have like 8 photographs. I'm going to ask Danny to go ahead and get those ready to show us now. And this will show kind of the real tractors and kind of where they are. And so this is a good shot. What is this right here, Tim?
This is at one of the shows that we attended. It was taken in Bush, Louisiana, and but you can see all the different style tractors. The tractor in front is a Model B Farmall, which is one that's in my collection.
And we'll show that after we finish with the photographs so they can see the one on the real one and the model one.
Right, and we had modified this tractor to have a second seat, so my wife or some of the grandkids could ride, when we do parades.
So if you look at the seat part, you're going to see 2 red and white seats, and that's so that there can be a sidekick, huh? Okay. And this was a show. You do a lot of tractor shows, right?
We try to do maybe 3 or 4 shows a year, as time provides.
And
They're generally in the spring and then the fall of the year.
Harvest, planting, harvest.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's see the next one. What's this?
This is a picture of the same little tractor. This is my stepson, Corey, and he's participating in what we call a barrel rolling contest. You can see the cones on each side of the tractor. And the purpose of this event is to see who can roll the barrel past these cones in the shortest amount of time.
So it's a dexterity kind of thing, being able to maneuver
Yes.
the tractor without knocking down the cones and moving
Yes,
the
ma'am.
barrel. Okay.
You have to roll it with your front tires.
Okay.
So in this particular event, Corey did win.
Did he really? I was
Won
going to
first
ask how
place.
good he did.
Yep.
All right, go Corey. And this was at one of the shows again, right?
Yes, this was at the show that we do in Crowley in April of every year.
Okay. Next photograph, maybe. There we go. What's this one?
Okay, this is at the same event. This is one of our fellow collectors, Mr. Bill Falk. He's pulling the sled in a competition pull here. And as you can see, the tractor is connected to the sled and it's working. You can see the back tires are starting to dig into the soil.
Oh, yeah.
And the front tires are starting to lift lightly. So it means that he's got a good hookup on the tractor, and Bill always does well in the pulls.
Okay, so there's a lot to be said for a lot of maneuvering and finessing to keep it
Yes,
going, huh?
ma'am. Yeah, you have to know what you're doing, and he's very good at it. You have to know what gear to pull in and
Okay.
how to set up the tractor to make the pull.
Okay. Next photograph. Who's that little cutie?
Oh, this is our grandson, Cameron, and he's always in the shop with us, and he loves to ride on the tractors and participate with us. So he's our little future little collector.
But part of what's important about this, and you said earlier you like preserving the history and the legacy, but the tractors you have really are a voice from our past, and yet your grandson is going to help to continue to take this into the future,
I hope so.
probably, don't you think?
I hope so.
Isn't that a lovely thing? It
Yes,
really is. It really
is.
is.
Yeah.
And I have to say, he's a cutie. Now, and I also understand his little sister has a pink tractor, huh?
Yes, both of them have tractors, little pedal tractors. He has a pedal tractor that's identical to the one that his dad drives. So he's really in love with that, and we're hoping that he'll follow in our footsteps and keep it going.
He's got a good start. Okay, let's try the next one. I love this shot.
Okay, This is a shot that we took a few weeks ago in front of our shop at home. And these are what we call W-series tractors, similar to the one that we discussed a few minutes ago. And these are all Wheatland tractors that were used to till the soil prior to planting. And it starts from the right, which is a W4, which we just purchased back in July. And it goes to a W6. The next tractor, the red one's a W9. And the one on the far left is what we call a WR9, which is a rice field version of the W9 series. It has the taller fenders you can see on top, the big flat top fenders. This was to keep the operator protected from the mud and water from the rice fields.
Okay, as opposed to wheat fields, which are pretty dry.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Next picture. There, I see the little tractors. I see little pedal tractors down there.
That's the two tractors. That's the big Super M in the back that his dad, Corey, drives, and he has his little model Super M in front. And his sister, Caitlin, has her little pink tractor there as well.
Too cute, too cute.
And these tractors are row crop tractors. They were intended to work in crops like cotton, soybeans, or even tobacco, anything that was planted in rows like corn as well. And they could cultivate as well all during the year to keep the crops ready until they were laid by. So these tractors were designed to be fitted with cultivators and various types of plowing equipment to keep the crops maintained. So that's why they were nicknamed, as you can see on some of the labels, Farmall. So that's what it meant. It was it farms
everything.
It does it all.
Okay.
So that's where they came up with this Farmall name.
Okay. And I think is that all of the photographs that no, one more.
Okay. This is of Corey. He was participating in a competition pool, and he was all dressed out that day for the occasion, had his shirt on that his mom made. But we do competition pools from time to time, and it's really enjoyable. It's fun.
It looks like fun.
It is.
And with all this equipment, you got to have some fun with it. You got to play with it once in a while. We're getting really kind of short on time. I want to go back to the model. Oh, here's one more, and this one I definitely wanted to talk about because this goes back to the engine that we saw initially.
Yes, this is the actual full-blown version of the model that we had looked at earlier. This is the 1911 2-horsepower famous International Harvester engine, and this is a very unique engine, a very strong engine. It's rated at 2 horsepower, but it's a very strong 2 horsepower. The engine by itself, without the cart underneath, weighs 900 pounds.
Wow.
These things with the cart and all, it's probably pushing 11 to 1,200 pound engine.
Wow.
So it's a very strong, very durable engine, and like I said, it was built in 1911 and it's still running strong today, so it's 101 years old.
It's better
But these things were used in a lot of machine shops and small factories to drive line shafts and any type of equipment that they had in those facilities. So they were used quite a lot.
So some things, maybe we haven't improved on all that much. Huh?
No, I have to agree.
I want to talk before we do run out of time, because we will run out of time way too quickly, but I want to talk about this one.
Okay.
Because we've seen this one a couple of times, I believe, in the photographs, right?
Right.
And this is your favorite, am I right about that?
This tractor is actually one of the first tractors that I had learned how to drive when I was a child and working on the farms in Arkansas. I always had a desire to find one of these Super M Farmalls, so found it. We bought this tractor. It came out of Walker, Louisiana, and we had to do some restoration work on it. But this particular model that we're looking at here is what they call a precision series, and it has high detail. You can see the hydraulic hoses, some of the levers that are on the tractor that are...
I'm going to turn it around so they can see these hoses. Okay. So you've got everything showing on this one, huh?
Yeah, it has a lot of detail on that model, and this is what they call precision series, and they're very... it's so close to the real thing. It's scary, but I really like that tractor.
What is it about this tractor that you like so much?
I guess since I grew up driving one, just
okay,
like
this takes you back to your own boyhood.
It takes me back. I have a lot of memories come back when I sat in that seat, and I remember all the days that I worked in cotton fields and plowing on that tractor. So it has a lot of history with me.
And these are good, durable tractors still, too,
yes.
huh? They work well?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
So in terms of just in the last minute that we have, I knew we were running short on time, which is why I wanted to be sure we got to this tractor. But what do you think young people today need to kind of know or have an awareness about the tractors, about the farming industry, about kind of the way we are and were?
Well, what we try to do is to try to give people a view of what has happened. Like these tractors we're representing are somewhere 50 to 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a time capsule, as we talked about. So it kind of gives you an idea of where we went from the animal power to that point, and now from where we were from the early tractors to where we are now. And it helps everybody now, the younger generation, to understand, you know, how it really was done back in the older days and how different it is from where we are now.
And it really is true. It's on the shoulders of giants. Everything stems from what went before, and so the
Right.
past really does matter. Tim, I want to thank you so much for coming, sharing your collection, your stories. I really appreciate you being here. Thank
Well,
you
I
so
enjoyed
much.
you having us.
We have been talking to Tim Jones, and you have been watching The Extra Mile.